I've just discovered my wife had cheated on me years ago, and was impregnated by another man, so my sweet child is not mine, and I don't want anything to do with them. So, 2 weeks ago, I found out that my 5-year-old isn't biologically mine. I felt so hurt and betrayed that my wife of 6 years, with whom I've been in a relationship for 9 years, cheated on me and even got pregnant by another man. I took a paternity test without telling my wife. I immediately confronted my wife and, in my anger, called her a tart and many other names. She started crying and explained that she hid it because she didn't want to break our happy family of 3. I asked her why she cheated on me, and she explained that we had a very nasty argument back in the day, so she hooked up with someone. She claimed it was just a one-time fling and that she had been loyal to me ever since. She admitted that she had doubts about whether I was the father but never took a paternity test. She said she was happy seeing me happy and didn't go through with a cancellation to maintain peace in our family and to avoid telling me the truth. I told her I was divorcing her and didn't want to be in our son's life. She started crying and begging me not to break the family. She insisted I was still his father and that I'd been a wonderful father and husband. She pleaded with me to forgive her and not let DNA destroy our lives, continuing to beg me desperately. I immediately left, and she began blowing up my phone with calls. At first, I decided not to tell anyone else, but in the end, my anger got the best of me, and I decided to tell everyone. Now, everyone is furious with my wife. Her parents said they wanted nothing to do with their daughter and cut contact with her. My sister furiously called my soon-to-be ex-wife and cursed her out. However, her brother and sister claimed that I humiliated her and said I shouldn't have told everyone, that it should have remained between us. Yesterday, her sister called me and told me I needed to take my wife back in return for my son. I told her I don't have a son. She got angry and started cursing at me, calling me a weak, pathetic man. She said it was no wonder my wife cheated on me, claiming I was so insecure and weak that I had to go behind my wife's back to take a paternity test. She accused me of giving up on my son just because we don't share blood and said I was the reason my wife is now alone and depressed. I hung up on her and instead called her husband, told him everything, and said that her family is full of nutjobs. I even suggested that this behavior might run in their blood and advised him to take a paternity test as well and not trust those cows. He apologized on his wife's behalf, and we ended the call. Now, I'm ignoring all my wife's and her sister's calls. Relevant comment. Damn crazy how DNAs just go around ruining marriages and destroying lives like that. Update 1. I was absolutely shocked to see the amount of comments and numerous DMs on my post when I checked it again yesterday. I'm thankful to everyone for their responses. I couldn't go through all the comments, but I took my time to read as many as I could. To those who were asking if I'm okay, no, I'm not, but I will survive. Also, why are some people calling me misogynistic and saying I deserve to get cheated on? If your husband came to you and claimed to have a child outside of your marriage, would you not curse at him? This is not about gender at all. I decided to take the paternity test because my sister asked me to. She had asked me multiple times, but I initially brushed it off. I never suspected my wife of cheating on me, let alone getting pregnant by another man. My sister is my best friend and has always looked out for me. She said I should take the paternity test because my son didn't look like me at all. I told her he resembled his mom, but she insisted, and I'm glad she did. She was heartbroken seeing me cry in her arms. I must have hugged her for hours and cried because I truly loved my son, but he reminded me of my wife's cheating, which made my pain even worse. After reading comments about how my son is a victim, just like me, in all of this, I decided not to cut him off completely right away because it might mentally scar him. I called my wife, and she answered immediately. I told her I was coming over to meet my son. She cried and said she was glad I was coming over. I asked her if her sister, the cow, was still with her. She said she was. I told her to tell her sister not to talk to me, or I'd throw hands at her filthy mouth. My wife assured me her sister would not interact with me. When my son saw me, he was very happy. He instantly hugged me and asked where I had been for so long. I picked him up and told him I had been working. I played with him for an hour and gently explained to him that I would be away frequently but would visit him and stay in contact. He didn't like the news, so to cheer him up, I promised him a very special surprise for his birthday. It's in December, so I'll figure something out. After he went outside to play, I talked to my wife. She immediately latched onto me, hugging me and crying. She begged me to come back to her, saying she didn't want me to give up on our son and on her over a mistake. She explained that she had wanted to have a baby cancellation but didn't because I was happy, and she insisted she had been loyal to me ever since. I got even angrier and grabbed her arm, yelling that she had destroyed me and our son. I told her that when our son finds out the truth, he won't love her as much as he does now. I asked her how she could betray me like this when I was faithful to her every single night. I reminded her that we both know I'm not infertile, yet a random man got her pregnant after one encounter. I told her I wanted to tell everyone we knew the truth, her friends' friends, the whole neighborhood, every single one of her family members, even those living in China, and people she hasn't talked to in years. I even mentioned future partners. She started crying and shaking. I told her I wouldn't go through with it because I didn't want to hurt our son, an innocent child, and that the only reason I was holding back was for his sake, not hers. She said I was the love of her life and that she couldn't live without me. She promised to wait until I calmed down and fight for me. She said she wouldn't let our family fall apart over her mistake. She even offered to have as many kids as I wanted and to take paternity tests herself. She started kissing me desperately. I pushed her away and told her she was delusional. I said she was acting as if she had ruined my car, not my life. I told her I might have forgiven her for anything else, but this was a betrayal to both me and her own child. I yelled at her sister to get her professional help because she was going crazy. Before her sister could say anything, I left. I wanted her to be as angry as possible. When I returned home, I texted my wife, saying I would visit for our son but that I was only thinking about him. I told her not to make things worse than they already were and to focus on being a good mother. I am now living with my sister, who has given me her full support. She hugs me until I calm down, even if it takes hours. I will start divorce proceedings soon. I know it's unlikely I'll escape child support, but even if I could, I feel a moral obligation to stay in my son's life. As for my wife and her sister, they're both awful. Maybe this behavior runs in their blood. Update 2. It's been a month since I found out that my son isn't mine. I sought therapy. I love my son, even though he isn't mine biologically. I love him, I always did, and I always will. In my anger, I called my wife names, which I didn't want to do, but she betrayed me. And my sister-in-law? She definitely deserved the things I said because she called me weak and treated me like crap after I found out the truth. I've realized through many therapy sessions that it's better to make peace with everyone and focus on being in my child's life. I don't know why I'm getting angry messages saying I went too far, that my situation is fake, or that I should forgive my wife. Well, I agree I was angry, it was a betrayal worse than just cheating. In any case, I am posting again because I truly tried my best. I discussed things with my sister-in-law. Thankfully, she wasn't hostile. We apologized to each other, and while we still don't like each other, that's okay. I visit my home every few days. My sister-in-law, my wife, and my son all live in my house. I am tolerating all of this because of my child. I just want a clean divorce from my wife and to remain in my child's life because I'm the only father he has ever known. Although he is still young, I don't know how or when to tell him the truth. Every time I visit my home to spend time with my son, my wife always hugs me. I've stopped pushing her away because it never worked. I just let her hug me and let her vent. She keeps apologizing, saying how sorry she is and that she wants me back. I always tell her that I'm here for my son. She cries but doesn't say much in front of him, thankfully. 3 days ago, when I visited my son to spend time with him, I absolutely adore him. He always gets so excited whenever I come back. I told my wife, in his absence, that I've hired a lawyer. My wife freaked out and said I shouldn't split our family apart. She insisted that while my son might not have my DNA, he's still my son, and she's still my wife. She pleaded that we could make it work, live happily, and that she would give me as many children as I wanted. I left after she vented. I'm still angry at my wife and my sister-in-law, but I'm in control of my anger. Her family keeps calling me, telling me I should give my wife another chance and be a good husband because she will be a good wife. When I refused, they said there's a chance I might not be able to see my son. That scared me. I love my son, even though he isn't biologically mine, and he loves me because I'm the only father he's ever known. But what if I'm not allowed to see him? What if they flip the situation? That's what worries me. It's not about me, it's about the child's mental health. I fear they're weaponizing it, and I don't want that. Am I betraying myself if I stay with my wife for my son and help him? Update 3. Not going to lie, it's been a rough couple of months. I wanted to run away from all of this, even abandon my son, but I didn't want him to suffer, so I tried. Since then, I've been visiting him a lot. I've moved out, but I keep visiting him. However, my wife tries her best to make me stay, and her cow of a sister is no joke. I've tolerated it all for my son. This Christmas, after celebrating with my son, my wife, her sister, and her family sat me down to talk. They wanted me to reconcile and not give up on my family. My wife said she made a mistake years ago and that there's nothing she can do to change it. She said she wants to stay with me. I told her it's not possible, that I'm doing all of this for my son, not for her or anyone else. They argued that we've been living peacefully, that I have a loving family, that I love my son even though he isn't mine, and that I shouldn't break the family. They said the past is the past, that I should forgive her because she's been faithful ever since, and that she's willing to give me my own child. After everything they said, I decided there's nothing else I can do. I told them all that what my wife did was betrayal, not just cheating but making me raise another man's son. I tried my best to avoid complications and to do everything for my son. I told them I am leaving, filing for divorce, and giving up on my son. Then I left. They tried to stop me and still send me texts and call me, but I ignore them. I've decided to file for divorce. I've talked to a lawyer. My stance is that either I get full custody of my son or I give up on him entirely. I'm not particularly concerned about child support, but this is painful for me. I've tried my best to give my son a better life, even though he isn't biologically mine. I wanted him to have both parents in his life, but his mother is making that difficult. If he ever needs my help or wants to reconnect with me in the future, I'll be there for him. But I already know that custody will most likely go to his mother. Thanks for listening to me.